Hey there, welcome back to High Infidelity, the best channel for cheating stories. Like and subscribe to channel for more spicy stories. Now, let's get into today's story video. Cheating girlfriend. I'd been dating this girl for over 7 years. We had been together for 6 years at the time. My field of business was electronic consulting, which included putting up systems with a plethora of sensors. Good pay, but a lot of travel time. I'm just establishing the scene here. Anyway, I had the impression that something was wrong at one point. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I had a gut sense. I'm quite excellent at going with my gut instincts, so I decided to put some evidence in the pudding. I had set a sound-activated recorder in each room of the condo while she was away. Because the storage was on my workplace computer, it was a very compact gadget. On a Friday afternoon, this was completed. I had a fantastic time with her during the weekend. Sunday night, before going to bed, I took my bags and equipment to my vehicle and installed a GPS tracker in her car. The following morning, I left for my next location. The plan was for me to be gone for 2 weeks. I spoke with her every day for the first week, but the second week was hit or miss. When she was usually at home, I would call, and it would go to voicemail. When I asked her about it again, she gave me a slew of excuses: business meetings, late meals, supporting her brother, and so on. After 2 weeks, I return home and nearly immediately go to my workplace. I saw a lot of activity on the recorders during the first week and almost nothing during the second, with the exception of a noisy truck going past. So I go back to the first week of recordings and discover that she is conversing with a man. To make matters even better, she has it on speaker, so I can hear both sides of the conversation. It turns out she has been cheating on me from the beginning of our relationship. So I made the decision right then and there that vengeance was in order. I needed to figure out who this person was. I discovered she met this man, his wife, and their family at a campsite she worked at before I met her. I discovered where they resided and then reviewed their phone records. People still had home phones a few years ago, so I searched up the number. It's now on the list. When I dialed the number, a man answered the phone. I was prepared for this, so I requested to speak with Mrs. Smith in a professional tone. He shouted for her, and she answered the phone. I inquired as to whether she was acquainted with my soon-to-be ex-girlfriend. She confirmed that they had asked her to their home many times since meeting her at the campsite. That was brand new to me. I told her we couldn't talk about it right now, but if she called me back when she was free, I'd explain everything. I offered her my phone number in the hopes that she would be intrigued enough to call. She did indeed call 2 days later. I went through everything I had recorded. She was first suspicious. I told her I'd make a copy of the recording and email it to her. She replied okay, but she was still hesitant. As a result, my task was put in motion. I took the files to a nearby recording studio and described what I wanted. They combined all of the individual recordings so that as she went across the home, it picked up from the various recordings to finish the dialogue. They then burned these audio recordings to CD, which required 5 CD to cover everything. I then sent the CD to Mrs. Smith through registered mail. Then I sat and waited. It's been around 10 days. She eventually phones me, and she's in a good mood. She informs me that she filed for divorce the day before. Her spouse works on an oil rig and will be there for the next 2 weeks. She delivered the CD I supplied her to her lawyer after listening to them. Mr. earned of money doing what he does, so throughout the years they acquired a lot of toys including campsite sites, a boat, an RV, and so on. She made it apparent that she was going for half. I hung up the phone, giggling to myself. After what I heard on those tapes, it couldn't have happened to a kinder person. Throughout this period, I never mentioned anything to the GF. I pretended to be as normal as possible. In fact, I still had the tracker on her vehicle. I didn't believe it would result in anything. For another week, nothing happened. Then came the day when all hell broke loose. My girlfriend was strolling around the house like she was lost. I asked her what was wrong, and she informed me that a friend of hers was getting divorced. That's a shame, I thought, and went about my business. That evening, she was on the balcony, chatting on the phone. I wasn't paying attention save for the fact that she kept increasing her voice every now and then. The phone call comes to an end. She comes back in and immediately returns to her bedroom. I return to the door after hearing a lot of bustle and seeing her packing clothing. I ask her what she's doing and receive no response. She finishes packing, goes out to her vehicle, tosses the luggage in, and drives away. 2 weeks have passed with no word from her. Mrs. Smith called and told me what was going on in her life. She had her spouse served with papers, and the cause was adultery. Of course, he disputed everything, but she was able to throw specifics at him that she claimed stopped him dead in his tracks. She verified that the phone call my GF made the night she left was with her. She said she never raised her voice, but my former GF insisted that nothing occurred. Mrs. then informed the GF that she had been apprehended. Mrs. hinted that she discovered it on her own and that her next move was to inform me. This is why the GF left so fast, haha. So that leaves my treatment of the GF. The credit card is no longer valid. I phoned to get a rep for my car. Utilities were scheduled to be turned off. Insurance was terminated, and all of her goods were transported to her father's residence with a message explaining why. He resides in another state, by the way. We lived in a condo, so I arranged for it to be exhibited for sublease. I was packed and relocated in 4 days. New condo in a gated neighborhood with a guard station. The automobile was ultimately picked up. They received it when she was at work. The dealership worked with me to sell the automobile, and I just paid the difference. Mrs. Smith did get her divorce order and receive her share. Mr. Smith never refuted anything because he was too afraid about his firm discovering the filthy truths. Never heard from the ex again. Story 2. I am 29 male, getting a divorce from my wife 24 female of 3 years. I feel used, cheated. I've known my wife for 5 years and we've been married for 3 years till we split a month ago and are now divorcing. She cheated on me, which is why we divorced. She cheated on me first electronically, sending images and on Skype to 2 people, then physically with a separate person, when she went to meet her family out of town. When I found her the first time, she had set up a secret Skype account and neglected to log off of the computer. She partially acknowledged what she had done, and after a week of nightmares trying to figure out why she did it and where the relationship would go, we decided to attempt to work it out. A few months later, she traveled to meet her family, and I discovered via her friend that she spent several hours with another person I'd never heard of before, all while pretending to be with her family. When I discovered her for the second time, I waited for her to return here and spoke to her immediately. She had no rationale or justification for what she did. I couldn't say anything. She collected her belongings and returned to her family a few days later. My wife, well, ex, stated there was nothing I did wrong and that I was the ideal spouse since I supplied for her and cared for her. I was available if she needed anything or wanted to chat, and I would tell her if I didn't agree with something or had a different perspective. Since she didn't work, I worked a full-time job and worked overtime whenever I could to supplement my income. I paid for her activity lessons, painting, dance. She wanted me to participate, but my work schedule didn't allow it. She said that he really regrets what she did and will never forget it. She believes she married too soon and that, due to her selfishness, she is not a person who should be married at all. She continued assuring me that I had done nothing wrong, but the more she said it, the more puzzled I became. I don't see how someone can claim I was the most influential and positive person they met in their lives, or that I did more for them than anybody else. But don't do what she's done to me. That doesn't make sense to me. Why would you spoil it for me and you if I was so good? I feel attacked and misled, used and duped. I worked for years to give us something to look forward to, and now I feel like I'm back at square one, if not worse. I can't stop thinking about her. Despite what she did, a part of me still loves and cares for her since I made a promise for better or worse, but she believes it's too late to straighten things out. She said I made her a better person, and she understands how much she wounded me, and she has never been more regretful in her life. Now she wants to go, and I can't help but wonder, well, she'll be better for someone else after I worked so hard for this. How is that assisting me, and how is it even fair? This is all twisted up. Please help me comprehend.